So again, great to follow after Paul. I mean, really cool to see EcoFlows being a vibrant conversation in the state of New Mexico. Who would have thought that would ever come to be? So I've changed the titling a little bit here. I've made it a question mark. How to respond to the big hole fire out of deference to the wisdom in the room here. We're making up things as we go along. And a large part is building on the great work that's been done by others. I think the Middle Rio Grande is an incredibly rich system for studies and awareness of the interface between the environment and humans. So excited to build on that. Let's see, do I point where I do? Is the advance? That's what I needed. As Lynette kindly pointed out, this is a great collaboration. If there is a governing system in New Mexico to help us cobble together all the different considerations for managing this river, it's the collaborative. And I don't think there's any argument there that this is the best set of influential government social perspectives, and we're overjoyed to now, as of January the 28th, we are now part of the collaborative, and so it's going to be a big lift for us. I suspect we're the smallest agency in the group, but I think we have a lot to contribute, and we have a lot. It's a two-way street. We're totally signed up to get wisdom and resources and intelligence support from many of these great partners here. I would be derelict. That's the wrong button. I'd be derelict if I didn't give you a quick overview of what we're talking about today. I'm going to do a quick rundown who we are at Valencia Soil Water Conservation District, a quick recap on the April 11, 2022 fire, and then a moderate dive into these considerations of strategy. We're trying to really focus on what we've been hearing over these years of working on this river system, especially accentuated after the Big Hole Fire. Really three big needs: how to respond effectively after severe wildfires, like directly after the wildfire considerations; how to identify a diverse plant palette with native species that are better adapted to the future climatic conditions. Seems like a really important component that is an active conversation for us all. And then rolling it all together, how do you go about the development and implementation to form strategies to reduce the severity and frequency of these catastrophic wildfires? I mean, so that rolls it all together, and you try to get a strategy in place. We're trying to do that, and we're pushing on the third year, and strategy is still in formation. I'm beyond proud to work for a group of 7 volunteer board of supervisors who are giving their time with no compensation to try to improve the served communities that they live in. So that's super important to me. And also, I'm proud to be a member of a small staff of 4. We do great work. I mean, the demand will always overwhelm us in the kind of environmental work that we do, but I'm really happy with the group that I lead and get to work with. Valencia Soil is a 1.4 million district acre. We're one of 47. We're the only district in the great state of New Mexico that has public lands that we have available for public use. 49% of us, actually, of our land falls on Valencia County. Our pet peeve is people who use the word county in our title. So please don't call us Valencia County Soil and Water Conservation District. Hurts our feelings. 80% of Laguna is on us, and 100% of Isleta Pueblo is on us, which is a super important statement of value for my organization, trying to give First Nations, First Stewards, real voice in the decisions that we're making. But as I should have mentioned on that map, 1.4 million acres, only a very small portion of that relates to the Middle Rio Grande and the floodplain. We got a lot of other things going on. Environmental education is our most important program. In my humble, the kids of all ages coming to benefit from time outdoors. We're the only group in the area with a developed environmental education curriculum. We are all, as I noted, we're the only one of 47 districts that have preserves. So the Whitfield Wildlife Complex, please come visit if you haven't. Thought to be the premier wildlife viewing location in the county. And we think we're an outdoor laboratory to help resolve uncertainties in the management questions that we're grappling with. We also have a financial assistance program to push forward citizen conservation projects. Overjoyed to be entering our 9th year of running this East Valencia Urban Gardens program. So we have community gardens up at El Cerro Mission and in Meadow Lake to provide produce for the underserved communities up in the east part of our county. And all that kind of brings us to a real strong value on the part of my board, on the part of myself individually and my staff, to emerge as leaders in conservation priorities. And the thing that we're really focused on in the context of today's conversation is bosque management and having leadership expressed in trying to find a pathway that's climatically adaptive and deals with the change in the fire regime that we're seeing. So that's who we are. For today's conversation, we're really focused on these 3 properties that we manage, the Whitfield, Stacy, and Rio Bajo. So those are all outside of Belen on the east side of the river. So let me gather that for a moment. Another map showing you the Big Hole Fire footprint. This is about almost 900 acres of the Big Hole Fire, of which 105 fell on Whitfield and our Stacy unit just off the map there. Biggest fire in the history of Valencia County, also the only fire in the history of Valencia County that had a federal emergency declaration associated with it. It happened, the Big Hole Fire blew the same week that the Calf Canyon and Hermit's Peak fire blew. So President Biden included us, Valencia County, in the Emergency Act. So there's money there to be had for restoration work. There's a drone photo a week after the fire, just giving you another perspective on how thorough the burn was. Showing you the MRG land, the big footprint of the fire, and here's the canal where it popped over that day of the fire. A couple day of photos, if you'll indulge me. There's our at the time, our educator, environmental educator, Allison Martin, that's right about 1 p.m. on the day of the fire, right at the Big Hole, right when it started. So does she not look like she's pensive? That's the word that comes to mind, pensive. I drove over to see the fire. This is on the west side, and there's right where it's starting to blow up against some of the western laterals. So I got escorted back by the cops to come back to this side. So there's that Whitfield looking to the west down our western gate. Right after the fire jumped over the river. So the fire has just now joined onto the eastern side of the floodplain. And there's the San Juan drain that is our western boundary. And at that moment in time, the winds, 60, 70 mile an hour winds, went from being pretty much due north to north by northeast, just enough to have it blow over the San Juan drain and enter into the refuge, into the preserve. There's Johnny Chavez, our conservation program manager, who's also our point of spear on all things connected to working with the fire professionals. So Johnny was working with the incident commander that day. Not a whole lot to do, unfortunately. A couple before and afters. Here's right that western gate I showed earlier with an abandoned Walmart bike. This is like the summer prior to the fire. And then here's the day after the fire. Super heat. The chain was melted on that bike. Right around the corners, one of our 4 outdoor classrooms. Stumps with little kids' rumps on them is how they should be looking. And instead, you got to wonder, what did those 3 stumps do to not piss off the fire gods as opposed to the rest of them? Our biggest loss was the loss of our biggest, oldest tree on the preserve, what we refer to as the owl tree. We believe it's the most visited tree in the county. Hundreds of school visits have come to this tree. This is a 2018 photograph of a teacher imbuing some environmental education lesson to be learned. So big loss for us. It's clear that tree didn't have a whole lot more time left. It was on the last legs, but it would have been alive today if the Big Hole Fire hadn't come that April day. Fully budded up that day, so it was especially vulnerable to fire. We lost 12 old 75-year or older trees. One has survived out of those 12. Sharon, where's Sharon? There's Sharon. This after Sharon listened to us yammer and whatnot for a while, she made this what we refer to as Valencia Soil and Water Conservation District's Bosque Management Universe graph. So I don't have nearly enough time to talk about most of the things here, but just to say that, can we not agree that perhaps the central goal we can all lean into is this healthy ecosystem for benefit of humans and species, native species, and to get from here to there, it takes capacity. I need capacity to figure out the water rights. I need capacity to figure out the fire breaks. I need capacity to figure out what's the right monitoring, how to do it, and I got very little of that. But here's the universe that riparian restoration in this day and age triggers all these things and more. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to simplify our world and break it down into consumable little pieces that we can make progress on. So we're simplifying to put it up into two different pilot studies, a pre-burn and a post-burn scenario. So the post-burn, obviously, looking at the Whitfield units and Stacy and the pre-burn at the Rio Bajo unit. So let me dig in just a little bit deeper on those. For the post-fire scenario, oftentimes, and this is Mark Briggs talking right now, I'm channeling Mark Briggs, he says to me, hey, basically you get three choices. What is most typical is you do nothing and let it grow back as it will, or you plant as it was, basically using the same plant materials as you had prior, or you try to do something different. And that's what we're trying to do now with a different, more climate and fire adapted mindset. On the other side of these scenarios, looking at the pre-burn, our Rio Bajo conservation area, we think is a great opportunity, a 147 area mixed riparian site to showcase different restoration techniques. We want to do experimentation. Even we want to break some eggs and make an omelet, as I said earlier, to do more strategic thinning, to do effective fire reduction, but with an important value of ecosystem function, native retention. We think there's a great opportunity on our locations and elsewhere in the river system to be more creative about our fuel break designs and how we're going to try to make them be multi-purpose and effective in those purposes. Monitoring is a huge piece of it. We've already put in a sentinel monitoring site for veg trends and water trends at our Rio Bajo site. So that's our Achilles heels. Monitoring's key. We don't have the capacity to do it very well. Big opportunity here is evaluation of the climate science tenets. All sorts of different things being pushed out from the climate hubs that we're spending in America, many millions of dollars across the world, the same. Thing that I'm focused on, one of the things is assisted migration. Let me go 200 miles south of my balloon planting location, find native vegetation outside of Las Cruces, and let me plant those in Belen because they're used to hotter and drier weather, and see if that's not a survival strategy for greater resiliency. Of course, got the right partners. Always want more, but the partners in this conversation, love to have Yasmin here from the Conservancy, Ursa, Audubon, State Forestry is gigantic for us, and the local fire department. Won't go down this list by it, but partners make all the difference, so no question every one of you all are in our partnership group and appreciative of the work you've done with us in years past and in the months to come. Part of that lane into partnership is having these great meetings, these opportunities for collaboration like we're having today and tomorrow. We did a workshop back in April 6th and 7th of last year, had some 38 subject matter experts come and cuss and discuss the different considerations of effective riparian restoration before and after fires. So we really looked at these different tension points. What do you plant? Where do you plant? How do you plant? Cobbled that together in a report that's available on our website. So one of the big themes of the workshop was the need for better compilation of existing resources. That's something that the collaborative has done an excellent job on. And again, what we kept hearing was partners are really focused on getting something actionable, something that's really going to push the ball forward in this context of how are we going to manage for a new wildfire regime. So out of the conference, we were hot and heavy, and we made a handful of different proposals. This is one of the ones that we put forward. Didn't get funded, but at least it's illustrative of the approach that we're trying to take, where we're really, this conceptual timeline, we need restoration training. We had the beginnings of an agreement with the Pueblo of Isleta to have a youth training program to get them a fire crew from their own citizenry. So things along those lines, bringing in a coordinator on my staff to help push all this together to stand up these pilot projects. I mean, those are all ideas that we're trying to push forward. One of those components is having more meetings like we're having today. These partner meeting get-togethers allow us to take stock of lessons learned so far. What's worked? What hasn't? What can we do to be more successful? Setting in motion what we believe is the need to develop this collaborative climate-adapted fire plan for the entire MRG that isn't so stovepiped and is more inclusive and comprehensive for the some 180 river miles of the Middle Rio Grande. This is a map that Johnny Chavez, my colleague, conservation program manager on staff, put together. Who knew that there was a rainbow of options for fuel breaks? So this really comes into this concept of integrated site planning. How do you put all these pieces together? It's not just what you're going to plant, it's where you're going to plant. How are you going to plant it? Is it going to be in long rows? Is it going to be in islands? Is it going to be breaking up trying to facilitate that habitat mosaic that we've been talking about? So we want to use this diverse plant palette to rebuild the diversity that was once in this river system. Hopefully we're going to find some missing native species that came from this part of the world that can be returned, that will be successful in a changing climate. Maybe that's a step too far to hope for, but I'm with Paul. The glass is half full. I went beyond your 35%. Now I'm at 50%. And part of that integrated site planning includes being fire thoughtful. And so these fuel breaks, again, to mention, are another opportunity. Not as they address the lack of access and defensible space, but it can be done with an eco-function consideration. Yasmin and I are going to get together with some fire professional colleagues and try to push this balance between thinning your area, making you more ready for the next fire, because it's coming, but also doing it in a way that you feel proud about in your environmental balance. Quick, almost done here. This is a quick rundown of our Rio Abajo conservation area, a quick update. This is a 2021 photo of the great medium-aged cottonwood overstory with Russian olive, salt cedar, understory super dense, 95% non-natives. I think this is such a beautiful photo. It's ethereal. I almost think if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, it's Lothlorien-esque, right? Doesn't that look kind of elvish in its nature? But we cut it all down. And it hurts to say that, but we did. We cut all the understory, all the non-natives are gone as a product of collaboration with state forestry as we're doing a thinning work for fire prevention and taking the next step in replanting for ecological balance. So with the MNRD state forestry, removing, chipping non-native understory, prescription that we're putting in place, 5 habitat piles per acre, no more than 2 inches of wood chip depth, except on the trails. It can go as much as 6 inches. Retaining the best snags per acre, 5 per acre. And our replantings, we've got some low-hanging fruit on our plant list, but we're still expanding that, as I said earlier, trying to get a better plant database. So a couple pictures. That's the fuel burden that we're trying to work through underneath these cottonwood trees. So we currently have a hand crew doing hand sawyering and chipping. And And if you need any mulch, we got lots. So we have a giveaway program, free mulch for the people. So come on down to Whitfield and we'll give you a truck full of mulch. An example of one of the habitat piles that we're trying to establish. And then a broader picture of a couple days ago there at Rio Bajo with this beautiful, all this magenta is Herba de Manza. It's this carpet of winter carpet of Herba de Manza on site. I'll finish with a couple ideas on strategies. Again, love and Paul's wisdom that he brings into these conversations. He came to our workshop and brought this 1935 aerial photo, which just shouts out to me, patched mosaic. So I mean, my framing is let's use this rear view mirror to see where this world was and to listen from the First Nation, First Stewards and their value system, look at the oldest maps, and try to reclaim that where it makes sense while we lean forward into a new emerging future that has all these uncertainties. So that revegetation design is part of it. Native plant list is part of that concept. This fuel break development is part of it. Ongoing understory management. I was talking to Cowboy Max about it's a non-ending nightmare when you clear out an area to keep it clear. Let's say I want to establish this patchy dynamic and I say, okay, here's a place for trees, here's a place for trees. I don't want trees to grow here, but guess what? The salt cedar are going to go there whether I like it or not. Right? So is there enough tractors in the universe to cut down all the growth in the in-between areas where you don't want these trees to grow? I don't know. Obviously, collaboration with local fire departments is critical, as is strategic use of water. Prescribed burn, even with the black eye that prescribed burning got a couple years ago, it's a critical tool to continue managing fire in these ecosystems. And where's Cowboy Max? Because this graph is for him. And I think there's a chance for goats to come back in the system under structured, contractual driven. What I told him was after our fire, we had visits from a handful of Valencia County commissioners, fairly conservative mindsets, and they said, really sorry about the fire, I hope you guys recover, but just so you know, my grandpa, we never had fires on our allotment because we'd let the cows go in and they'd eat all the underbrush, and why can't you do the same? And I'd go on some litany about, well, it's no longer your grandfather's bosque, you have NEPA, you have lead jetty jacks, et cetera, but there's a bridge there. A social bridge that I think is important to connect to other folks who aren't perhaps in the tree-hugging science community, to establish some animal on property to make a difference that's positive. Last, hope that the collaborative, which is now us, that we are able to bring this workshop together, the Climate Futures Planning Workshop that got postponed from last year. We're especially excited because we hope it may have some focus on the Whitfield lands as kind of a focused area for determinations to support the workshop. So with that, I'll end by just thanking everyone for all the hard work you're doing in the projects you're running, coming here today to help us all piece together as a collaborative community. And lean in with us as we try to use the death of our 100-year-old cottonwood tree as an animator to try to add some urgency into this discussion and make progress where we otherwise may not. He's somewhat of a poster child, we believe, for an unmanaged bosque let to burn. So with that, I'll offer thanks and open for questions.